all the evidence suggests, and the polling suggests, that the majority of Palestinians actually want the death of Israelis, and they want Israel gone. What Israel is fighting actually is Iran at the moment through its proxy, Hamas. But this idea that the Middle East conflict, insofar as it is between Israel and the Palestinians, the idea that that is about the division of land is simply wrong. This is the illusion that the West has pursued for decades. It is not about the division of land. If it was about the division of land, a state of Palestine living next to a state of Israel, it would have been solved in the 1930s. It would have been solved every single time this state of Palestine has been offered to them. But they have turned it down because they make it absolutely clear, something that the British media very, very rarely, in fact never, talks about. Their aim, and I'm not talking about the Hamas, I'm talking about the Palestinian leadership, the Palestinian Authority led by Mahmoud Abbas. Their aim is the destruction of Israel. They say so. They say so in Arabic. They say so in their insignia and maps, which if you look at what the state of Palestine would look like, it is Israel. It is not these disputed territories. You can see it in their educational materials, in which they teach their children. This is the Palestinian Authority. They teach their children that their highest calling in life is to murder Jews and steal all their land, to take Jaffa, Tel Aviv, Haifa. These are Israeli cities. They want the lot. And they say so. They also say it's holy war, that Israel is intent on destroying the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This lie has ignited Islamic jihadi hysteria since the 1920s. It is a total lie.
So there's no hope?
There is no hope as long as the West continues to fund, legitimize, sanitize, and incentivize the genocidal attack on the Jewish people in the state of Israel. That's what's kept this terrible war going. If the West were to suddenly turn on a dime and say, you know what, we've got this wrong, actually we now see this for what it is, and withdraw funding and support from this Palestine cause, it would go. I can't tell you how it would look like, what the ultimate, what the land would look like as a result. I do know that Jordan and Egypt would be part of this final arrangement. I can't tell you what it would look like, but the war would end. The war is being kept going by the West's incentivization and funding of an unconscionable agenda, which the West tells itself is something completely different.
Giles, do you want to say something?
I only want to say, and I don't want to argue with Melanie, and I don't want to argue with anyone about this, but just looking at the thing that Melanie just said about where the problem lies and what we do. And you asked that question, I think great question, Stig, is there no hope? And that's what we want to hear, particularly from someone deeply entrenched and passionate like Melanie and into a particular cause. We are hiding, that people like me are going, it's not Israel, it's not Palestine, it's Hamas. It's all about Hamas. Hamas are doing this. They're a death cult. When all my friends go, ceasefire now, I go, what about calling for Hamas to lay down their arms? Hamas lay down their arms and walk out with their hands up. It ends tomorrow and not another child dies. I've been telling myself that. Melanie is saying the problem is not Hamas, it's the Palestinians. All of them, all brought up and ingrained to want the death of Jews and to have the whole of Israel now. If that is the case, I don't really see how withdrawing funding from missions to them can really help. Where is the hope? If the problem, as Melanie says, is genuinely it's Palestine, they will never cease until they've killed every Jew and have the whole area to themselves, regardless of who's in charge. Then where's the hope?
And we have spoken to Palestinians very clearly who support the notion of a two-state solution.
Of course, there are Palestinians who support it. There are Palestinians in Gaza, I'm sure, and certainly in the disputed territories, who want nothing more than everybody wants. You and I want. They want to live in peace, to look after their families, to have work, and not to be frightened of their loved ones dying. We all want that, and there are people who do that. But unfortunately, all the evidence suggests, and the polling suggests, that the majority of Palestinians actually want the death of Israelis, and they want Israel gone.
President Abbas was asked this question about, do you recognise the state of Israel, a couple of days ago, and he said very clearly he does.
Well, of course he recognises the state of Israel, but what he means by that is
he
recognises the reality.
Doesn't.
No, he recognises the reality of it, but he doesn't actually want it to exist.
Well, he says, his comments are, I recognise the state of Israel and its right to exist and have done for 40 years. I in turn ask Israel to recognise a Palestinian state and its right to exist.
Yes, and it is a lie, because you only have to look at the maps and insignia that he promotes. What is his state of Palestine? It is the whole of Israel. What are his people telling their children? To take Israel away from the Jews and to kill Jews. That's what he's telling his children. This is a man, Mahmoud Abbas, whose hero, he tells us, his hero, the man by whom he sets his life, the lodestar, is the former Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Haj Amin al-Husseini, who told Hitler that when Hitler won the war, if Hitler won the war, he, the Mufti of Jerusalem, would annihilate, would murder every Jew in the Middle East. That is Mahmoud Abbas's hero. So, you're dealing with somebody who is profoundly anti-Jew, profoundly anti-Semitic, whose entire program consists of corralling his own people to that end of the destruction of Israel, the hatred and murder of Jews. So, of course, he tells people in English, I recognise Israel and so on. He'll say anything.
So the Prime Minister shouldn't be engaging with him?
I think that the Western leaders should make it clear, which they won't do this because they themselves don't believe this, because they themselves don't know the history, or they turn away from it and they choose not to see it. But it's. I mean, I heard what Giles said, but it is my strong belief that it's not simply a matter of sort of being nice to leaders or taking, being stern to them. The Palestinian cause depends almost exclusively on Western support. The Palestinian cause has no support in the Arab world. None. None of them wants the Palestinians. None of them supports the cause. They're very happy for it to continue.
So Iran wants it just to make trouble?
Iran wants the destruction of Israel and every Jew in the world as not as a prelude, as part of the war against the West that it has been mounting since the regime came to power, and against which, to my continued astonishment, neither Britain, America, nor Europe, or put Europe to one side, it doesn't ever do war anyway, but neither Britain nor America has ever responded properly to the multiple attacks on Western interests made by Iran.
Yeah, and Egypt, as we know, has a president who is in argument with Hamas because they're connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, who he overthrew.
Exactly. Egypt is kind of the mothership of the Muslim Brotherhood and is deeply entrenched, deeply associated with it. And President Sisi, as you say, came to power by getting rid of the Muslim Brotherhood president, and he is deeply threatened by them. Jordan is deeply threatened. These regimes in the Arab world are deeply threatened by Islamic supremacism, extremism, and so on, even though they themselves, as countries, gave birth to it. It is very complicated. Yeah. But my overall point is that this terrible war in Israel, between Israel and the Palestinians, is kept going by the fact that the West has continuously legitimized the Palestinian cause.